Okay, thanks a lot. Let's go.
All right, so let's talk about data and analytics strategy. My name is Kristiina Tiilas and I'm head of data and analytics in Kemira at the moment, one of the big chemistry companies, kind of a worldwide global company, but headquartered in Finland. And I used to have the same role building data and analytics strategy in Fortum, one of the European's biggest energy companies. So I have done this a couple of times, and I hope that I can share with you some of at least my learnings through these these years that I have been working with data and analytics and strategies. So let's start with the vision. We always want to start with vision to understand that where are we actually aiming to head at. And this is kind of a data-driven company vision drafted for Kemira now. And what I want to tell here is that we have to understand that, of course, we create value through data and analytics, and that's the top of everybody's minds. It can be AI use cases, predicting something, creating new services, or doing better decision based on data. But it doesn't happen by itself. So we have to also look a little bit deeper, and we have to build people and organization and right competencies and select right partners for these cases, because at least from my perspective, I cannot have all the competencies in-house. I also have to have the best partners here. Then we have to select the ways of working, kind of how do we want to create these new services? Is it agile approach, or is it waterfall? Is it something combined, and also these kinds of things? And then in the bottom governance, we will hear also later today by Petri and others more about data governance. A very important part, also the architecture, like what tools should we use for what purpose. And for example, in Kemira's case, we have very strong SAP environment, and also we have built up our data and analytics environment now in Azure area. And one of the biggest questions we have is that where should we build each kind of analytics? Because many of these tool providers, they also can support you with around different things already, and they are always want to cover more and more analytics in each of the tool. So architecture, very important. And then on the bottom, kind of understanding your data asset and how to manage that. Because it's not that straightforward that what data do we have, who owns it, how do I get it for my use case, and things like that. And then if we look the triangle in the back of the slide, it wants to tell you that this is not an IT exercise. IT can bring you the tools and technologies. It's not the data exercise, because data persons and data scientists can help you to build this stuff. But it's a collaboration between business data experts and IT, because business has to own the cases. They are the ones who actually get the value out of the new services, and they are the ones who own the data. But this always has to be a very close collaboration. And of course, it all has to be based on the corporate vision and strategy. So data and analytics strategy cannot be separated from the corporate or company's strategy. And this is what I have tried to build now for Kemira. And let's see how I have drafted this strategy. So let's remember, this is the core all the time when I'm going through my presentation. And here is the strategy slide. So what I have drafted now for strategy, data and analytics strategy, is basically based on our company strategy. And that you can actually see here in the upper left-hand corner. So basically, I have taken a few points from our Kemira's business strategy, where we can actually support the business strategy from data and analytics. And I have selected these 3 areas, but of course it then depends on your company strategy, what kinds of kind of combination points or points you want to bring from that. And then based on that, we have actually set our strategic targets. And strategic targets are many times very difficult to measure. And actually this time I wanted to build this up in the way that we can measure them. Of course, I don't have the numbers here, but in our internal strategy, I do also have numbers. But we have set targets for annual savings in manufacturing. It's a very clear KPI target that we can follow up. And these targets are now set for until 2025. So basically for 4 years from now. Then we have set targets for revenue growth from new services. Also quite easy target to measure, or at least should be, but of course try to be very clear with how to measure these KPIs. For example, in our case, the question is that, is this revenue target purely from services, or does it also cover the chemistry that you sell with the services? So these kinds of questions, you have to be very clear that what are you actually measuring. Then the third one is we will train our personnel. And in this case also you can, for example, measure or count how many persons have taken certain trainings or things like that. In our case, we decided not to set a measurement or target for the number of people, but we actually decided to set the target of the feedback. So we are always gathering feedback from all the trainings, and in this case it's from 1 to 5. So we are targeting to get feedback of average on 4. So quite high evaluation from the persons who have taken the training. And then the last one, this is not measurable, but I want to bring this up, and this was exactly the same what I wanted to do also in Fortum's case. So demystify the things what we are doing, because we all here know what AI is, or what can we do with data, or how do we build predicting models, or things like that, or what is visualization and dashboarding. But people around the company, they don't know, and it might be that it's not that close to their everyday work. And this is what I want to do, that I want to make it really easy and simple. Like AI, it's nothing more than computer programs that are predicting something or calculating something based on historical data, and that's it. It's nothing more specific or unique. It's just calculating stuff, and it's very straightforward. Of course, then we have our all different things, well, what you need to know and understand. But this is what I say, or what I mean when I say demystifying data and analytics. Also data, that it would be really nice to have very easily understandable data structure. But when you start talking about data or data models or things like that, usually you lose most of the people if they are not data personnel. Oh well, that's about the target. So then how to get to these targets? So in the right hand side you see the business value part, and here I have just selected a few examples for you what we are doing as projects to actually get to these strategic targets. And I have selected a few from our one of our must-win battles, so basically creating new services for our customers. And I have also shared this area into or based on our business segments. So we have pulp and paper business segment, and then we have industry and water, and the third one here is group or enterprise, or these kinds of supporting functions. So we have one of our biggest thing here is the predictive wet end product, and here we are doing predicting models for pulp and paper industry. And then in the other part, industry and water, we do this advanced water treatment optimization. So these are kind of the biggest projects we have ongoing in the customer side. And then when we go into this execution efficiency side, so our other must-win battle, we basically do a lot of things for predictive maintenance and operational improvements and things like that in manufacturing and supply chain. So these are the concrete cases how I want to communicate to our organization that we are doing this to reach our strategic targets. And then, of course, we also have here in group, we have people analytics, logistics, optimization, and stuff like that. But as I said, these are selected few I wanted to share with you. But that's not all. Those are the projects that have been going and will be going around the company now and in the future. But these best practices below here, this is the important part. And this is the part that I'm focusing on. Because this is the way that I want to bring the common things into all these projects. I want to bring common architecture and technology. So I want to say that that when you are building these kinds of, let's say, machine learning cases, you should use these tools and you should build your models this way so that they are also operational and easy to keep up also in the future. And for example, if you want to access data, this is the way that you can access our common data sets. And this is where they are located. And this kind of access control we have and things like that. Also data governance, I have one slide I want to share with you what I mean by that next. Ecosystem, we have selected our partners. We have now strategic partners who we work with and it has to be very easy and clear, and data security. And of course the competencies below, these are just to highlight that these competencies we need to further develop, and they are not there yet. But this is how I communicate our data and analytics strategy. Just a few pointers, and let's see then a few slides about a few actual points. So governance. I know that we talk a lot about data governance, data management, data quality, all these things, and this is how I see it. It's one way, and I know that there are others, but I have tried to kind of figure out what is, for us, what is data governance. And it's this box here in the middle, we call conceptual data governance. And it's the kind of the box where we define rules for data. And it's kind of data perspective to certain things. But then we understand that, for example, in Kemira, we have very straight and strong process governance. And it's kind of next to this data governance has to be very closely connected, because data is handled by or is used by processes. And then the other part in the right-hand side, we have the architectural governance, so system perspective to the same thing. So the data is located in the systems. And this is how I see that we have to have these three boxes kind of next to each other. And we have to have shared reality or rules to all of these, so that we know that when we do, for example, end-to-end chain, let's say that customer, we have maybe leads in the beginning and we do some marketing and we get data from there, and then we actually want to sell something to the customer, and it's the sales process, and then we actually serve the customer, and the whole customer chain starts from somewhere, and certain rules have to go through the whole chain, so that even when we change the system or the tool that we use for certain parts of the train, like sales or marketing or some other parts, still we get the same data floating and we understand it in the same way. And this has been one of the big challenges I have faced, at least here in Kemira's side, that sometimes we understand, even though we talk about same terminology or use same terminology, we understand them in a little bit different way. And then, of course, in the below here, operational data governance has to be then, it's the hands-on on doing how do we maintain the data. And then in the bottom, you see that we have portfolio, program, and project governance, and these again have to get aligned. But there are so many perspectives to this topic.
Kristiina, sorry, 5 minutes we have left for Q&A. If you could be so kind to sum it up for Q&A. There are many questions for you on the chat area.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely. I will just cover in the end actually 2 things. First of all, we do have to do the cultural change and train people. And we have, for example, started with basic trainings, advanced trainings, and then of course learning paths for experts. And how do you actually do this? How do you actually get the value out? Start with projects, select the right problems, start with good design work to actually solve the problems, and have a great or common selection criteria. Scale through platforms, select your platforms and stick with them, and don't let everybody do whatever they want with whatever tools they would wish to do it. And then really focus on people, culture, competencies, share the stories, build communities, and be very people driven. So these are kind of the points I wanted to share. And let's see, are there questions now in the chat?
Thanks a lot. Yes. So Jon Parker, if you can just switch on your camera and mic. Jon was speaker yesterday with us.
Hi, Kristiina. Hopefully you can hear me. Hi,
yes,
thank you very much for a very interesting talk. I know that we have I think a pretty ambitious strategy as well. Looks great on slides, but we have some difficulty getting sort of the adoption and really transforming the business. So most people know our strategy, but we lag a little bit behind when it comes to adoption. So in your experience, has this been an issue as well for Kemira, and what have sort of been the biggest challenges, or how have you, if you've successfully achieved implementation here, what's your secret?
I think that's all of our challenge when we try to drive changes. What I have noticed that what works well is that where we actually share the stories or successes from the businesses to others. So it's not from the centralized team where I try to, tell them that do this or do that, it works well. But when I help one of our teams to create some case, and then I help them to share their story with others, then at least what I have seen also in Kemira and earlier in Fortum's case, then it's kind of starts the spin that also the other teams want to do the same, and they start asking them that, how come they got that nice solution or predictive model and we don't have that, and I think it's at least that's one of the ways to persuade the teams to move this way. But it is a struggle. It's always a struggle.
Thanks a lot. I hope you got the reply. I don't have much of a time. 2 minutes left for another question. Dennis Jacobson from Myers. Dennis, I'm unmuting you to ask the question.
The first question is answered on the processes because it came on the second slide. But the other question is more on data and how much data you're actually collecting from your operations, and is it done automated via sensors? And so very practical question, I think.
Yeah, about the data, we have started gathering our IoT data, so basically from our sensors and our automation systems, and this has just started. So we have a few of our production sites, we are collecting the data and doing analytics there. So I think it's getting there, but it takes some time. We have built up now all the capabilities, so we are able to take more data in, but it seems like the most time takes to get the actual access to the data in the different manufacturing sites. Not all of them are very new, the system, so they are quite old, and it's not that straightforward to get the data out.
Thanks a lot. Okay, one more question. Jens Winzer from Wordscape. Last question, I unmute you. Jens, can you go ahead with the question, please? Or I'll be reading it. How do you in practice make everybody model the data the same way?
You don't. It's of course we try to put or create or use the similar high-level data model, but then of course when you go to certain points, the data models are different, and then you just select that what are the key drivers or key data that you want to be similar in different parts of the end-to-end chain. And as I said, we have selected, for example, that the let's say sales qualified lead is the same in marketing and sales, or customer is defined the same way in the whole chain, or things like that. But in other parts, the data models can actually be different.
Thank you so much. So it was really engaging. Kristiina, still you are on holiday, Kristiina, or back to office?
I'm still in Spain, enjoying the sun.
Yeah, you see, guys, we are pushing even. I don't let Kristiina to enjoy even her holiday, just to add value, bring this expertise for participants. Thank you so much, and enjoy the sun in Spain.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kristiina. You can just stop sharing, please, with the button totally up the screen. Thanks a lot. So I would like to ask our panel leader and panelist, Ramesh, if you are here with us. Yes, perfect. Then Sami, you are co-host as well to join us. Perfect, Sami. Nina, as well, you are co-host. If you switch on your mic and camera, please. Kristiina, you are part of this panel. Again, camera on. Sorry, Kristiina. We take your time, still 20 minutes. So for participants to know the value of the event, this is an incredible opportunity for everybody to see. Sometimes we are talking and people don't understand what does it mean by this event is not vendor driven, because people are from the industry. This event is not